Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv Wolok, my partner in crime, Vasili Gianarakos. Silly, welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
Doing well, Yariv. Not too bad. Hope you're doing good too, buddy. It's hard right now, at least hockey-wise, just because the Flyers are in the midst of another, fairly long losing streak, 7 games. We just have to hope it doesn't reach the 10-game plateau like the two from last season. So I think
Yeah,
that's the main thing to look at.
yeah, creeping and crawling our way there. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey of late. Um, hasn't Let's be honest, the injuries are, we were just laughing about it. It's a comical. It's at like it was at, it was a like anger, frustration level, then like serious concern, then devastation, and now we've hit like comical, where it's just like, we'll just add them. I mean, what's the difference? Like, who else can we add to the list at this point? That Hayes, you're healthy again. I mean, time to take a seat. It's just like, the joke is just like every single person is going down at one point, where I don't think I have seen a more depleted offensive unit for this extended period of time in the modern like Flyers era. Have you?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I mean, in terms of just injuries that are constantly
And
happening.
severe
Yeah,
too.
exactly. It's not like it's even injuries that are going to be, a game or two. It's a week or longer for most of these, which is the
And
main
sometimes
thing.
months, sometimes
Yeah,
completely
and
unknown
a
and
lot of the
ongoing.
critical ones like a Couturier or an Atkinson, like Couturier, at least you have a 3-4 month timeline that Fletcher just gave us today.
Theoretical, but
Theoretically, I
agreed.
mean, who knows? But at least there's something to put
Yes.
around it. Atkinson is just, well, he's week to week until something happens, whatever, whether it
Yeah.
may be negative or positive, who knows? I have a really great stat. I was going to bring it out later when we kind of did the injury update,
You
but
can get into it
I
right
think
now.
this is it's just pretty comical, honestly,
Okay.
the stat.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like it's crazy and kind of goes to what you were saying. Have you ever seen like the Flyers in this last 2-3 year era have this many injuries ever? Which for me personally, I've been watching since 2005. No, I've never seen this.
Okay.
So in regular season games played since the last healthy game, fully. So nobody's out, nobody's injured or ill. So
Okay.
the Flyers have played 300. Well, now it's been 3 games since I found the stat actually. So 335 games since they've had a fully healthy lineup. 335 regular season games since they've had a fully healthy lineup.
Wow. So like never.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Like that's like what, like 82, 82, like probably like 3-4 seasons. Yeah, they haven't had a fully healthy lineup in 3 to 4
Well,
seasons.
we've had some serious stuff, right? We've had the Patrick and the Oscar Lindblom,
Yeah.
right? We've had those abdominal core surgeries with several of the key players, even Giroux
Even
with
back
that
to
one.
that, that's what I mean. Like just major surgeries to like key players on the team dating back to like 2016, 17. Even with Simmons, he had that
Yeah.
double surgery for his hernias or something like that, I believe.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it,
It's
and
crazy stuff, man.
but it was always like one guy was down,
Now
maybe
it's,
two.
yeah,
Now
6.
it's like eight.
Yeah. I'm selling it a little short, literally.
It's like,
Uh,
yeah, because you can't forget about Ellis. Like, I know it's easy for us to be like, well, he doesn't
but he
count,
counts
but he
though,
does
legitimately.
count. He was
Yeah.
supposed to be part of this team that was in the planning. Like, Phil Myers, by the way, is playing for Tampa Bay, which I find funny. But
Yeah.
it's like, and again, this is part of the sport. It's not like so much like going, it's like, oh my God, well, they would be incredible if it wasn't, it's part of the sport, but this is like a next level thing. And what I was like joking is like, you know what, like maybe the hockey gods want us to get Bedard. You know
Bedard.
what I
It's
mean? Maybe they're
possible.
like, yeah, like guys, this is like kind of part of the plan,
Well, the thing
He's
is,
part
like, I mean,
That's like such a optimistic
honestly,
view.
my thoughts on the injuries is just like,
It's crazy.
first off, it's bad luck because I mean they changed the whole medical staff this off season, so it doesn't, and they changed a lot of the training staff
Well,
as well. So
they've
I mean,
never gotten healthy fully either, to
yeah,
your
exactly.
point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, right? So like I don't know if that has an effect or the fact that like these are recurring injuries. Like I don't know if Atkinson, for Atkinson's sake, it's interesting because like Couturier is recurring obviously because I mean he had it last year. and it just carried over. Same with Ryan Ellis.
Yeah.
Atkinson's the interesting one to me because he did finish the season off last season injured, and nobody really
Yeah.
thought much of it. And I wonder, like, is that the injury? Like, is it the same thing from last season? Because if
Yeah.
that's the case, man, that's fucking terrible. Like, if that's another, that's like three guys with like chronic level
Yes.
injuries, which
Yes.
is
Where
literally you have no idea of
potentially
when they,
career ending.
yeah, you have no idea when they might come back. And I mean, at this point, if they're going to be chronic injuries to those three guys where they're never going to come back,
Yeah.
the only positive is at least you're going to have a ton of cap space
Yeah, I mean, you got to find a way. You have to manage all of that though with the
with the
long-term injury
LTIR.
reserve. Yeah,
Yeah,
and like becoming in cap compliant on the scene. Sorry, into the season.
it's tough juggling.
It's
Yeah,
not good. It's really not good, and it puts the Flyers kind of in a hampered position.
yeah,
I'm still positive about Couturier actually more than Atkinson right now, just because Atkinson there's like no detail.
yeah.
Couturier, like you said, there's a timeline, there's a process to getting back.
At
Like
least,
we saw Hayes with a double
yeah,
surgery and come back. Not that it's
yeah.
exactly the same, but like
He's
this
still
could.
pretty effective. Yeah.
It also like I see a road to recovery. You know what I mean from an
Oh
outside
no,
view.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
The
know anything
only
about Atkinson.
the only thing with Atkinson, I guess, that is okay is like he skated
He's
a couple
skating.
weeks ago. He skated the other day, so at least he's on the ice.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the positive sign. But also, I mean, Ryan Ellis was on the ice too, and then just stopped being on the ice after a while. So,
Yeah.
like, who knows? Like you're saying, if there's no details, how all we're gonna do, especially from like a fan base's
Yeah.
perspective, where this has happened so often and to such key players, of course, a fan's gonna think, well, here we go again. Here's
I
another
mean,
guy, and we have no idea what's wrong with him, and I don't blame them because
it
it's the reality of the
it is.
situation.
Here we go again. You
Yeah.
know, you can't deny that. And even Torts was very quick, I believe, in the press conference to kind of shut down the Atkinson, questions because he's like, nope, because it's like they don't know. Obviously, he's obviously
Yeah.
working through some
Yeah.
kind of chronic injury. I completely agree with you, man. It's not good.
No.
It
No.
so let's go before we talk about the recent results here. I know it's really easy to get lost in these recent results, even over the past 7 games. 'Cause you'll see some of these like 5-2 games for what typically those like an extra net, empty net, or two
There's been
during a
a
game.
lot of those games, yeah, where I was
Yeah.
talking about this with some of my buddies actually because they were like, "Oh, the Flyers aren't, doing too well." We're just talking casually, 7 game losing streak, and I'm just like, well, honestly, most of these are all 1 goal games, and then it just gets out of hand at the end because of the empty nets.
Well,
So it looks closer than it is, right?
100%. Yeah, no, 100%. And this is why I want to point this out because we talked about this in the start of the season that what you will see, and again, you people can go back. I'm
I
well
encourage
aware.
you guys.
Yeah, like you can go back and see that I said this. You can expect that they will play better. You will see them in close games because they will just be playing better. They are
Playing
playing better as
harder.
a team. They're
Yeah.
getting the most out of their talent. Problem is they're missing an assload of talent right now. Now it's like
There's,
asinine.
there's nothing you
They're
can do about that in
well,
this league.
and those are the games where you lose. And this
Yeah.
is what I said, right? What we talked about is you'll lose those games by a goal. You'll see them lose
Hmm.
the empty netters. You'll see them battle all the way till the end and just miss out. You'd be like, man, if we just had those guys back, we could have won
It'd
that
be,
game.
yeah, it'd be way closer.
That's
Exactly.
literally what we see right now. And this,
Yeah.
look, this is to our last episode, right? This is maybe it was the last episode. That 3 pillars, right? It's the effort, the process, and the talent. Right now, the process has gotten better, the effort has gotten better, but the talent level's gone down. How
Yeah.
can you beat these teams on a regular basis? We're getting our butts
No,
kicked
you
just
can't
in
do
sheer
anything, and
possession, accuracy of shot.
yeah, and just quality of opponents, right? Because you have guys that, frankly, I mean, would probably be in the AHL if a lot of these guys were healthy that are playing
Well,
NHL caliber opponents, right? So like that has to factor
it's
in. Teams are taking advantage of the Flyers
it,
lineup, right?
it's not even no 100%, but I don't even know if it's like because I was saying it too. It's like, oh, this is an AHL lineup, but it's not necessarily that it's an AHL lineup. It's that the guys spread throughout the top of the lineup, while they are pros, they are typically one-dimensional, maybe
Yeah,
defensive players or grinders. Like,
third, fourth line guys potentially. Yeah,
yeah, like Zach McEwen, who's playing his ass off. I will say. I
kudos to
mean,
him. Yeah,
yeah, he's playing great.
but
I mean,
ideally, you don't want him on
he's
a
not a
top two
top.
line. Yeah,
Yeah, he's not a top 6 forward, and you're not having him out there for the last minute of the period.
No, yeah.
like, or the game,
He's
trying to
just not
score a
that
goal.
player, yeah,
Yeah.
for you. He's
And
giving you your all, and he's improved, I would say, tremendously, compared to last season. He seems to be
yeah.
getting better, but it's just that's the nature of the beast, right? He just isn't a top six guy like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're trying to force a goal, not to rotate a lineup. And like, I'm happy with his performance, but we know it. Torts knows it. I will say it's hard for me to be angry at the team. Like, I'm not mad
Yeah,
at them.
me neither. It's just
I
unfortunate.
yeah, I'm actually seeing like guys play really well, and I'm like, yeah, but like, Brown, okay, like I get it, like he's chipping in good shifts. I don't think he's had his best games. I get why Torch is playing these guys, but they're not able to contribute much offensively. And when you have all these
Yeah.
guys the same type, but it is what it is. And I do want to talk about this. Let's transition really quick here, and then we can talk about like the individual games. But I want to talk about the Hayes being put on the left wing, and I kind of start off with a certain mindset, and I think everybody's there, but I kind of had a thought process,
Yeah, sure.
or a thought change. Is that like, okay, if I'm John Tortorella and I'm looking at this lineup, and I'm not mad at Kevin Hayes, right? We assumed, oh, he's upset with Kevin Hayes, we moved him to the left wing, but I'm looking at it more of like, okay, I'm John Tortorella. Here's my lineup. I want to win. I do want to win the hockey game. And I look and I go, okay, who can create offense on this team? Not many. And my leading point scorer right now is Kevin Hayes. So I want him to have more freedom to produce offense, because we don't have many guys who can do that right now. So
Yeah.
putting him on the left wing, like we did with Giroux, gives him that opportunity to have more time
To
and
do more,
space
yeah.
to create more offense with less defensive responsibilities. I think at first, you're like, oh, he's punishing him. No, I think he was trying to win. And then obviously it wasn't working, and he kind of walked away from that
Yeah.
in the last
I was going
loss.
to say the caveat was that like that probably lasted for like half a period, and then
I think he
you just
knew
put
it
him
was
right back at
I
center.
think he knew
Yeah.
there was a chance it was short lived.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I mean, they had the Frost Tippett Farabee line, which is great in Montreal. Struggled a little bit against Calgary, and Tortorella even mentioned that in his presser,
Yep.
last night after the game, that he, split them up because he wanted to obviously look for more depth scoring. As you're saying, there's only about, if I can count, to be honest, there's probably five guys that I look at and I'm like, okay, you're supposed to be an offensive contributor. That's your role. When
Yeah.
you really look at it, like it's Hayes, Tippett, Farabee, Frost, and then Cates, right? Other than that, I mean, right now in the current forward lineup, there's just so many injuries, right? It's mostly guys that would be in your third, fourth line aside
Right.
from those guys, which is crazy. And then I mean, so you look at that, and then you see them struggling. They put Hayes back at center, which I totally understand. I do agree with what you were saying with the left wing thing, because I mean, it's just simply the nature of the game, right? If you're a left-handed shot coming in, playing on the left wing like that, just going to open you up to make a lot more passes. And what is Hayes really good at?
Exactly.
Playmaking, right? So it makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. I think though, another thing with it too is, I mean, the last couple of games I noticed that Hayes, Willman, Brown line they had in Montreal got caved in. So I think Tortorella is probably just like,
Oh, total.
let's get a
I
different look
mean,
and not put that line out on the ice again.
let me ask you something. Do you actually think that was a good line to put together?
No, no, not at all.
No.
I feel bad, that I guess,
But I don't really blame. I'm not blaming Tortorella. What he
no.
doesn't. Excuse me.
I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the players. There's not much variance. That's what I wanted to say. Like, there's not much variance and much you can do
Well,
with these forward lines,
I
really.
agree. I think a guy who probably will start getting more ice time, just chill off that one move that he made, is Kiefer Bellows.
You should
Like,
get more, yeah.
he's a guy that the coach doesn't know very well, but obviously has a better scoring touch than Willman and Patrick Brown, and
and
even
Delorier.
Sedlak, definitely
Yeah.
Delorier. Yeah, most likely Zach McEwen as well, even though
I
McEwen,
mean,
I
you
do agree,
gotta.
playing excellent.
There's pedigree, right? Like he's a first round
Even
pick. The
Tano
talent,
Lazinski.
yeah,
Yeah.
the talent's there. Or was there to be a first round pick. So you might as well now, especially with your live
He's
depleting,
a
you
guy I'd
need
like to
more.
see with Hayes.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I would like maybe like a Hayes, Cates, Bellows second line. Keep
Yeah.
for and then or second first line, two, 1A, 1B. I don't know, whatever. Whoever's
Well,
rolling, really.
I think they're
Um,
going to. My guess is they're probably not going to put Frost back up there. I think they're going to probably roll back with the top line.
I would just give it to him
I,
personally.
I know I'm just going off of what I think
Yeah,
coach is
I
going to
hear you.
do.
I know.
Though I'll be honest with you, I would actually roll with like Farabee, Hayes, Frost with Tippett,
Yeah,
try Cates try the line, that
Cates
we're all
with
talking about.
Bellows. Yeah.
Cates, Frost, and Tippett. Like I think
Oh,
they
you could do
should
that as
try
well.
it.
Yeah,
I think they
it was good
should
last
try
season.
it. It did well. I mean, it can't hurt. And that way you can just do your
Yeah,
top line with Hayes, Farabee, and if you want to do McEwen, fine. But I think maybe Kiefer Bellows might be a better
yeah. Give him a
option up
chance.
there. Even Tanner Lazinski, I would try up there. Though I understand why
Just to
Zach's being
see.
played. Zach McEwen's
Well,
being
because
as a
he's a
power forward
dog on the
now.
forecheck, man.
Yeah, he's being
Yeah,
played
he's
as
a
a
dog on the forecheck.
yeah.
Yeah,
I get it. I mean, dude, the guy is a savage. There,
hunting pucks,
you can't deny his motor. You can say whatever you want about his skill set,
hunting pucks,
dude.
man. Yeah,
It's if that's his role,
hunt pucks. He's
he's
good at
damn
it.
good
Yeah,
at it.
yeah,
He's
exactly.
damn
That's
good
what
at
I. Well, that's what I mean. That's what if you had that, let's say on a fourth line, like a really good fourth line, you'd
right.
love that, or a really good, or even
I
a good third
mean,
line. You know what I
that
mean?
with like Sedlak in the middle, like I like that. Even with Deloria on the left side, I thought that
Yeah,
was
I
interesting.
agree.
This team is just so banged up. Like actually, Max Woman's played. This is kind of what I'm saying. Like Max Woman's all right. Like Patrick Brown, these guys are all right. They're like
It's
fourth line
just they're
players.
not going to score you're not going to score the goals you need to win the
Yeah,
games.
it's like we can shit on them all we want, but they're being called up
In
to fill a need because we're in a bad position.
Yeah, pretty much.
And guys like Forster are not ready.
Well, I mentioned and I tweeted this out
Scale's
last
injured.
night that like aside from those 2-on-1 goals in the Calgary game, like they played pretty well.
I know
Like
it sucks. They actually shoot
yeah.
themselves in the foot. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
those mistakes kill them. But the thing is, they played pretty well, and I even mentioned that like it just is what it is. Like they limited chances, they
Yeah.
almost come back, but they just with the roster that they have, and then the talent that those players have to go up against, they just don't have the firepower to score more than two a night, three a night
Yeah.
at max. Like that four a night in Montreal, I think that's an averse thing. I don't think we're going to see that very often with this type of lineup. And you got to factor in, I guess Lawton was still in too. Then let me just list the injuries off before we kind of dive into more
Yeah,
stuff.
sure. Go ahead.
So we'll go through them here. It's a lot of them, as you guys
Yeah, I'll
know.
pull up cap friendly here.
So Philadelphia Flyers forward Travis Konechny is expected to be out 10 to 14 days.
Yeah.
Wade Allison 2 to 3 weeks with a hip pointer oblique muscle strain. That doesn't sound too fun. Cam Atkinson remains week to week. As we were saying, there's no news on what that is. Just upper body is the classification there. Couturier, as everybody knows, underwent that back revision surgery, and he's expected to return 3 to 4 months since the surgery on the 27th. So the timetable there's remained the same. So that's positive, right? It hasn't been lengthened. JVR underwent surgery for that broken finger on the 28th. And still expected to return in approximately 6 weeks. So I think that puts him around like December 9 against Vegas. So you might get him back the quickest, potentially, him or Konechny maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bobby Brink underwent hip surgery, obviously back in the summer, July 21st. So 5 months from that. I assume he'll probably go to the Phantoms, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scott Lawton is on injured reserve due to an upper body injury. We have the inside scoop from Jamie there that it should be like a shoulder strain, I believe.
Yeah.
So hopefully not too serious for Lawton. So at least you get maybe Lawton, Konechny, JVR back in the next couple of weeks.
Also, Bobby Brink is still injured, and he would
Yeah,
be
him
on
too.
this team probably
Yeah, him too.
if he
And
was healthy.
Ryan Ellis wasn't mentioned here. And then the other thing to note is Jackson Cates recalled, which makes sense because they probably just want an extra forward. And they're probably going to mix the lines around, I'm assuming, as we go along.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, as you were talking, I do want to point out why you can't use this as an excuse. Like, it's just we're not built to be a very good team. If you can't be deep enough to withstand injuries and score, it's like we have a gap here. We're gonna have to clean this up because if you look at the Washington Capitals, who are struggling like we are, they have 8 LTIRs.
Yeah,
Like
injuries.
Hurricanes have injuries, Leafs have serious injuries.
Oh, Morgan Riley's out, for a while. It looks like in
The,
Muzzin. So
the problem with the Flyers is that they don't have the depth to withstand that to begin with.
No, exactly.
Right?
They never had the offensive depth. Like they need all their guys back and clicking to be a competitive team, right?
I do want to name Washington's LTIRs just so we don't feel as miserable.
Sure.
So let me just go to their injured reserve first, and I'll just go with TJ Oshie, Tom Wilson, Dmitry Orlov, and Beck. Oh, I don't know this guy. Malenstein. I know the name, Beck Malenstein. Anyway, younger guy. And those guys are all injured reserve. And then long-term injury is Nicholas Backstrom, Connor Brown, and
Yeah.
Carl Hagelin.
Yeah, it's a lot of good players. They have, you know what, same with Columbus is kind of in the same boat right now. They got Line,
Yeah.
Borensky. I think a couple more defensemen. They got Voracek out for them as well. Like
Yep. Yep.
they
Yep.
got almost I think 30 million plus out. Same with the Flyers, just 30 million plus out. Washington's pretty close. So like it's a couple of teams in this division that are really injury bearing. So at least in
And
that sense,
Carolina's got some big
Carolina
ones.
too. Yeah. So at least in that sense, I mean, you're going to be playing some of these teams coming up like on like Wednesday night against Washington. Like they're bereft of a lot of talent as well. But despite that, they do still have Alexander
It
Ovechkin. So
Well, I was gonna actually say it's like it shows how important of a player Sean Couturier is to this team.
oh yeah,
How not having him literally drops us from being like competitive to not like to being a bubble team to not. Like that's
yeah,
how important a number one center is, and that's why everybody was so down when you hear the news is Coots. It's not that there's no positive things to take away, and that like even when the Flyers were playing well, I'm still kind of like, how can they be a playoff team if they can't? It's the same thing I said about Columbus. I don't know if people remember this. I think I said on the podcast
yeah. You
that I
did.
was like, they didn't have a number one center. How are you
Yeah,
gonna
Jack
how
Rossel's not a number one guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think he was benched actually when they played us the other day. It's like
yeah,
again, it doesn't make them bad teams. It's this is the most important player in your team.
yeah. Exactly. The number one center, number one defenseman, number one goalie. Any of those three are out. Like it's tough sledding, man.
If you don't have a
And
legit number one, you need three number twos.
yeah, pretty much to make up for
Yeah.
the lack of depth from
Roll out
losing
the
that number
depth.
one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like the Blues did or
The
whatever.
thing is too, and this is the thing. This is what you really have
So
to
I don't
take
agree with
into
that.
account is like it's not to point to an excuse for the injuries because the depth. First of all, the depth wasn't instilled in this roster to be able to bounce back from those types of injuries. So
We knew that.
that's a
Yes, coming in
management
this.
failure. That's a management failure because
Which we knew
if
that coming into the season, but
yeah,
no,
exactly.
you're right. You're absolutely right.
And it is a management failure for me just because I mean,
Jamie
if
was
you would
saying this to me on the
if
phone
you
today,
would
by the way.
yeah, if you would have signed Dylan Strome, for example, he's not a first line center,
Yeah.
but like he would have helped right now
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
situation, and
They
it was
didn't
only
sign a
3 million.
single center. They didn't sign a
Yeah,
single veteran center.
and they
Top
knew that
nine.
their top center was coming back from a surgery, and their second line center was coming back from a surgery too. So like just in terms of
And Frost
manage,
was a
yeah,
question mark.
just in terms of managing your assets in your roster, like the thought process on Fletcher's end, like I don't understand. It's not there.
Like,
There's no logic.
and I
But
think Deloria has done well, but you can't deny that you're still like looking at this lineup. You're like, well, we don't need Deloria as much as we need a center.
like you could have had McEwen play that role. That's just and
Yeah,
I like DeLorean, and
I think he's been good.
I can even admit when
Liked
I'm wrong.
him.
Like I shit on the signing when it happened, and I can say that I was wrong. Like I like what he's done in his role.
Yeah,
Like they need more, but like
sure.
he hasn't been bad for what he's paid to be doing. So
Yeah.
that's my opinion on that. But going back to the initial point is just, I mean, any team in the league, if you take away this many, like if you take away six forwards out of your starting lineup, which is what's happened right now, like have fun. Like
Well, to
it's not gonna be very good
to
usually.
to that point, all the teams that we have mentioned, well,
We're at the
the I
bottom of
guess
the standings.
well, I was gonna say not in the well, Washington, yes, right?
Yeah,
They're below us right now in the
Columbus
standings.
too, right?
Columbus, bottom of the standings, so they've been doing a little bit better, but and they got two wins against us. That's probably why.
Carolina's doing well, but I mean they
But
have
but
more depth.
but they're not in first place. They probably should be in first place. Should be
Yeah,
above the Devils, or at least neck and neck with the Devils. They have a
yeah,
couple extra losses in there. To your point, it does slow teams down. But it also depends on the injuries that you
yeah.
get, right?
You
And a
can't
lot of
replace a first line center. That's just
yeah,
is what it is.
that's the problem with us is we're not deep enough to withstand this. Some of the other teams that we mentioned, they are like Carolina can. Like they
Yeah,
have Aho, they have Sergachev, they have elite guys throughout their lineup that can, when one guy that was always the thing about the Pens, right? Like
yeah,
Malkin would go down, or I'm sorry, Crosby would go down, and Malkin would turn into the best player in the league all of a sudden. You're
yeah.
like, God damn it. Like
Exactly.
nothing
But
would slow them
even
down.
for Carolina, they have guys like a Kotkaniemi who like okay, sure he's been disappointing for them this season so far. He had a good season last season to start
Yeah.
off, but he's also a third overall pick. So hypothetically, if a player at the top of your lineup goes down, you can say, well, this guy had the pedigree, let's put him in there.
Yeah.
Like the Flyers don't have like a player like that where, let's say Couturier goes down. Well, we have this guy who's picked like third
We used
overall.
to, yeah, but we don't
Yeah.
have that now.
Yeah, that you can kind of put into that situation. So
Yeah.
that's a thing that is tough with this, and just looking back at the offseason because if you look at how bad it is right now, not to say that people envision this to happen, but people were saying, right, like there needs to be some sort of moves just to, you know, be the backbone of the team and actually create some depth if something like this was to occur, which it hasn't, and it's bit them again, right? So
Yeah. Well, again, the reality is like not we, Fletcher's not done a great job. Like
no,
I look, I can say he's been all right. I can say he's not the worst thing ever. And I think maybe at times we go over the top in how bad he is as a GM. I always say like right now I would say he's below average, but he
yeah,
hasn't been like the worst thing ever. Though
no,
he's been bad. I mean, like he hasn't been prepared for a lot of these things. He's had bad luck. He's had a lot of bad luck. That's not his fault. The injuries are not his fault.
yeah,
And
nothing
if
to
those
do.
injuries weren't in place, the team would be better.
Yeah,
But at the same time, that layer beyond that, he hasn't done a great job. It's just a weird. Well, give
he
him
didn't
credit.
provide any insulation for this
Well,
roster.
give
That's
him
my thing.
credit. He has improved the Phantoms, right?
Yeah, I'll say
I
that. Yeah.
I will say the depth at the middle range and those bubble players has definitely improved over the past year. Like we do have a lot of competent guys who can come and step in, and that's cool. Like I like that. And there are some other guys that maybe we can even still pepper in there, like Lishko and just other guys. Maybe Forrester will get his chance. Like I get that. That's cool and all that. But you didn't fulfill the biggest problem with every NHL team, which is down the middle. Or not
Yeah.
even every NHL team, which is the most important thing of an NHL team. Let's be honest, offensively is down the middle. And while we even these waiver pickups that we got, Sedlak was a good one. Bellows, they're all good. Brown, they're all NHL players. Like they're all decent waiver pickups, right? Like none of them are bad.
It's not the center depth you needed, though.
It's not the harder thing to find, which
Yeah,
is a guy who can play third line center, which we've been talking about for 3 years already, and would have
yeah,
cost you about $3 million a year.
yeah,
It wouldn't have
exactly.
been crazy
Well, I mean,
to find a guy who could do that.
I'm just gonna look at three signings realistically that I mean they could have been in on potentially that would have helped them out right now. And I mean, it's revisionist history, obviously, because it's
Sure,
over.
sure.
But I mean, it's Strome signed for about 3 million. Kubalik was like 2 point something,
Right. We talked.
and then Sonny Milano signed for like 1 million. Uh, like as
I don't think Sonny Milano will get played here by Torts.
No, I probably wouldn't because him and Torts had experience in the past. I don't think it meshed well, to be honest, in
Yeah,
Columbus. But like, I'd rather have probably those three in my lineup right now if I knew all these injuries were happening,
sure.
and it would have probably cost you under just under 5.5 million or so. So
Yeah,
for all three of them, like
yeah.
you know what I mean. So like when you look at it that way, I'm sure Fletcher didn't expect the injuries, and it's hard to expect them because we came in ourselves being positive, not
Well,
expecting it to happen,
I
but
I'll
has.
say that I think I do agree with what you said, but I do want to temper us a little bit. I think he didn't. When we see a little bit of success, people want to jump to, hey, we should have made a move. We should have. We feel that way. We're fans. We want to win. Let's be
Yeah,
honest. Like I
exactly.
hate watching this team suffer. But to the Flyers' credit, they didn't do anything on purpose because they knew that there were a lot of question marks. So to react, so right now, if we look at Columbus, okay, they lost their starting goaltender, which Korpisalo is still pretty good, but they lost Merzlikins now, who's an IR. They lost what's his name for the year, Zach Werenski,
Yeah, which is huge. Yeah,
which
huge loss.
ridiculous, right? They invested all this money in this season, and they're probably still not that good.
No.
Now, that's not a problem, right? There's still a young core. They'll fix it. They'll figure it out. They're probably on their way up. Goudreau is obviously an awesome talent. Like I'm not shitting on him, but
Line
look,
A too. Yeah.
yeah. My whole point is they made this investment, and it probably is not going to pan out for them this year. The Flyers didn't make a huge investment, and it's also not really panning out for us because the injuries and just things aren't going
Yeah.
our way. So you do have to give the Flyers some credit for being relatively reserved,
Yeah. At
seeing the
least,
opportunity.
at least they
Yes,
kept the cap space open for next
and
season,
and
right?
and we
So
cannot deny that D'Angelo. I don't care what people said. He's one of the best bang for your buck defensemen in the NHL right now.
yeah, that was a good move. That was a good move, and I can give Fletcher credit on that one as
Yeah.
well.
So that's the thing. Like we can't freak out at everything. Otherwise, the criticism they don't become valid. Now he hasn't done a great job, but when he's done some things that are like, okay, he's just stayed out of the way a little bit. Great.
Yeah.
You added a D-man. You didn't do everything we needed, but you can't because you're already in a pickle.
Well, I
You know
mean,
what I
we
mean?
kind of talked about it a lot during the offseason that like this is a perfect year to kind of segue into a big offseason potentially. Just in
Well,
the with the draft and just the free agents and the cap space you'll have. That's the potential of it.
100%.
Um,
I mean,
so
JVR is playing was playing very well, and he is lined up to get you a nice asset
yeah,
at
yeah,
the trade deadline. Let's be
definitely,
honest. I mean, if he
definitely.
continues to play the way he was playing, what team and will retain 50% of his salary probably?
Yeah, I
Are
could
you kidding?
definitely
Dude,
see
we could maybe get a
see
first for
see
that,
a
maybe.
first. Yeah, I could see a
Could you
first
imagine that?
potentially.
Like if he
I mean, you got to think
at the
about
rate he was
like
playing,
yeah, you got to think right. If he comes back and is playing pretty decent, putting up
he's
goals,
a 20 goal scorer.
teams are gonna notice that they're gonna
Yep.
want something like that for the playoff run, right? So I could
Big,
see it for
strong
sure.
body. Definitely going to score.
A
Definitely going to help you
team,
on the
I
power
mean,
play.
I'm just gonna throw it out there, random team,
New
but
Jersey.
potentially, but I don't think the in division is gonna happen
No,
because
but they
no,
would. Yeah,
but
their team is
and he's
killing it right
from
now.
there, and he's from there
That's
too,
what I
so
was thinking.
that
And
plays
he's right
into it.
here.
But
You
I
know what
was
I mean?
gonna say Boston,
Yeah, or Boston. Yeah, East Coast team
because
probably say doesn't have to lose life.
they usually need forward
Rangers.
depth. Yeah, Rangers too, but
Maybe the
I think in
Rangers.
division will be hard for him.
Oh,
I could
100.
see, I could also see
Carolina.
maybe back to Toronto though they need more
Carolina.
defense.
Pacioretty's out.
Yeah, him too. Yeah, yeah.
Patches. Like JVR is a pretty good leader. I mean, we've been hard on him here, but personality wise, you can't deny that he's well
No,
respected
and
as a
he's
human being.
and solid pro and just a guy who
Yeah, that's what I mean. Look,
really trains and puts the work in. If you have young guys, you'd like to have
I'll
a guy like that around, right?
I'll be
So
honest. When I saw the effect that Tortorella had on JVR, it did kind of make me take a step back and be like, look, JVR is what he is as a player, but like you can't deny the guy's will. Like
yeah,
we get angry at him when he's at his bad, he's not doing well. I get it, but you can't deny the guy just doesn't go away. Like he
oh yeah,
always has a rebound season. He like you throw a difficult coach on him and he's there. You know what I mean? He showed up
well.
in shape and he showed up looking great, you know?
You can say whatever you want about JVR, but I mean, if you look at
He just deserves some respect.
if
We
you
talk
look at
about throwing him away so much. Like we're
oh,
guilty of that too.
I agree. I mean, I think he just is the model of consistency, really, in the sense that like you look at him, you can always pencil him in for 20, no matter what.
That's what I'm saying.
And if you're
Yeah.
a coach, that you love players like that because you
Yeah,
don't have
and
to
it looks like
worry. You don't
yeah.
have to worry about it, right?
And
You're
just
just like,
same with
okay, there are 20 goals is coming from JVR. We know that. Like
yeah.
that's already penciled in for us. Like
And it yeah.
and players
I,
hate, or not players, coaches hate when they can't, when they have players that are unpredictable, where you're supposed to, have a guy that's contributing in a certain way, then it doesn't happen. So that's
yeah.
where I think JVR, the predictability of his game is something that other teams would probably be lined up to try to acquire at the trade deadline. I'd say.
I think for sure if we didn't accrue all these injuries with like Lawton and Allison and TK and all this stuff and it just continues now, I don't think we're sitting at the same 7 game losing streak. I don't think this is the same.
No,
Even if it goes to 10, it this is why I don't care that much. Like you can tell it's not the same thing. This is obviously a
no.
different story.
Well, the games are close, right? We already touched on it. Like they're losing these games, but they're in every game. It's not like last season where they're just getting blown out
Mhm.
a lot of the time, which is what was
They're
happening.
battling hard, dude.
Yeah, they're playing hard. Even I mean, even John Tortorella is kind of preaching that too, and that
That's why it
he
sucks
feels. Yeah, he even said
to
himself. He said, "I
watch.
feel bad for them," and he said that
Yes.
specifically after the Montreal game. He's like, "I feel bad for them because they played so hard and they lost just on a few mistakes that were controllable."
Yeah.
And ultimately, I mean, it spirals from those mistakes, and they just can't get it back, right?
And they don't
And it's tough too when it's Caulfield doing it, who could have been your draft
I don't
choice.
even want to talk about that stuff anymore, dude.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
like it
so
kills me.
annoying.
Well, it kills me how much. And again, I'm still excited about York. I mean, quite frankly, we'll talk about the Phantoms at the end here, but it just sucks to watch the Flyers like outsmart themselves in drafts and shit. And it's
Yeah,
just
like
like,
just pick the goal scorer that you
yeah,
might need.
like
Like,
there's just certain things that like you look back in history and I understand why people do revisionist history. Not so much with the Nolan Patrick thing. I think that one's even a little bit different because Nolan Patrick was like consensus
for
guy.
like
You know what I
5 years
mean? Yeah, you
straight,
can't because if it worked out, you wouldn't be like, oh, even if he's like just a top 6 forward, people
you
wouldn't be
wouldn't.
freaking out.
No,
You
not
know
at
what I
all.
mean?
Yeah,
But when you see like a guy where it's like, yo, this guy's like historically a goal scorer,
and
like
this team
burning
needs goal
goals.
scorers, and you have the
Yeah,
opportunity to get them.
you have it's a rare set of abilities. Like I still think York's gonna end up being a great defenseman.
I think the same, right? And that's the
It's
caveat that I
just
was gonna say. Like, it
yeah,
sucks it sucks because like the team needs a goal scorer so bad right now, and then you
And
see a
we
guy.
and we did at the time
Yeah, you
too.
did at the time too.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? You did at the time too, but you see, okay, what do the Flyers lack? They need goals. Who's burning us? The guy who scores lots of goals that we could have drafted.
Yeah. Well,
So it's just like it
he's
just
just a
sucks
great
in
young
that sense.
talent, dude. You
Yeah,
can't
he is.
deny it. You
And
can't deny the
they had
guy's
an
skill.
opportunity middle of the draft to get a guy like that who could potentially be like a perennial 30, 40 goal guy. So like it is, not the best when you look back at it, but I also do want to say that I think Cam York is going to surprise a lot of people and be a really good defenseman in this league. I think people are really down on him just based on getting sent to the Phantoms for some reason, but
Yeah.
he's killing it down there and playing really
Yeah.
well. And I mean,
I think he leads the team
historically,
in points.
yeah, he
Him and
does. I believe, and
him and Forrester.
historically, a defenseman is always going to take longer to be brought along than a forward. So
Yeah,
you shouldn't be
100%.
expecting a 21-year-old defenseman to be in the league right away and be contributing at his highest
Yeah.
level. As we say all the time, like look at Travis Sanheim when did he come into the league, right?
Yeah.
23, 24. So like that's usually what typically
I
occurs.
I also think like we have people who do what York does. Like
That's the thing, right?
if you
Yeah.
look at Montreal, like there's nobody better at goal scoring on that team than
Yeah.
Cole Caulfield.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And like look, the reality is, well, I don't have a problem saying it, the Flyers need to become one of the best teams management wise in the league right now. Like we can't afford to do this anymore. We can't afford to have our opposition outsmart us, for us
Yeah.
to pass on a guy and then for him to explode. Like we can't be that team anymore. We need it 2 or 3 years. Like
Where you hit on your picks. Yeah.
look, the reality is with this team, I don't think that we're going to get healthy this year. I think we might even, if we do, we might even put a streak together. Like I think it's possible. I don't know where we're going to finish, but the health thing, it doesn't feel like it's in the cards this year.
No, it does
And,
not.
and at a certain point, and this is where I'm not saying that they need to finish at the bottom or whatever. You need to make them tank, but just like let it go for a little bit because we need to clean up this cap. You need it, the amount of energy that this team would get from adding a star player after becoming a unit, building like an actual culture, like doing what they're going through this year, getting some guys back, like really realizing that they're getting better individually because they are. They
Players will
actually
be
are.
excited for that.
Yes.
That's the
And
thing,
then
right?
you ingest that talent. Like you have to be set up for that, whether it's be through the draft or it's going to be through free agency, whatever it is. Even if the Flyers aren't good, this year and they get like a top 7 pick. Yes, it's not a generational talent, but at the top of this draft is a
It's stacked
ridiculous,
draft. Yeah.
ridiculous group of players. So
Yeah.
like there is a win in this no matter what, but it has to be positioned right. And you got to start recognizing it now. Not that they should panic and do anything. Actually, I don't think they should do anything right now. But I think realistically, the way it's heading, and I think this is where they're seeing there's just too much pain and suffering. We'll see how it goes. But like now that like Lawton's hurt and Allison and TK and Coots and we can just keep going through the names. That's without guys getting hurt in the process now. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't know how long we can actually sustain this. Where I don't think that was ever the goal though. I think the goal always was fix the culture, get people to work as hard as they can. We'll
Yeah.
figure out how to get more talent in here next year. We got to figure out what's going on with these injuries and got to figure out what's going on with these like dead spots. And we have some young guys who are kind of up against the wall, and we might see some trades at some point, like one young guy for another young guy, like trying to find
Certain
that.
skill sets that could help some guys and some pieces they think are going to
Yes,
fit long term, right? So
yes,
that's the process of building a team. Obviously, I mean, we're
and
going to
maybe
go in.
accruing picks also.
Yeah, that too. Well, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of guys sold off. Like, I would be surprised. I mean, as we get around the deadline time, you see a guy like Braun go. You see even as
Almost,
even as Sealer's playing well.
it's possible to get
You could
traded.
see,
Yes,
yeah, I could see Sedlak go. I could see a number of guys go, right? Like that are on that cusp, like a Brown even.
yeah.
I could see a lot of those like
I
depth
think
pieces
Zach McEwen will
kind of
probably
go.
stay.
Yeah, I could see him. I could see him stay as well. I mean,
Yeah,
JVR is
just the way
obviously
he's played.
the one that
He should. JVR
everybody
should
knows.
go.
Yeah,
He
he definitely
should
should. He
go.
definitely should go.
Go try to win a cup, dude. Like you're
And like
34.
you were kind of saying, I mean, Yariv, like, do we really expect the team to get healthier? Just the way it's shaping up, probably not. I think that kind of leads into, I mean, what
That's
you
a
brought forth.
huge thing.
Yeah, what you brought forth as
Huge
well. It's
year.
just this is basically just a year, and we kind of talked about it, before the season began, where you're really just it's a fact finding mission, right? See what the young guys are, see who you can build
Yeah.
around going forward. who else that is around that doesn't kind of fit into that mold. Time to move on, and then with that and the clearing of cap space comes the opportunity of an off season where you can maybe add some more talent.
Yep.
I had an interesting topic to bring up. I mean, with the Leafs and their defense injuries of Riley, Brody, Muzzin all out. I mean, they're going to be in the hunt to try to stay in it, right? It's a competitive division. I mean, Erasmus Ristolainen, we talked about this off the air. You would be surprised, and we said it before, we'd be surprised if maybe they look to move on from him. Do you think it's an opportunity to try to take advantage of a team like the Leafs right now?
Yeah, no. I think, look, it's been rumored. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's still weird to sign a guy for long term and then move him immediately. But again, you signed him before you brought in Torts.
Yeah.
Probably, again, shows more to like, we can say that Fletcher did a great job with that, but it's like, I don't know. It's like it wasn't,
Would
it's
you,
like
if you would have had a first round pick instead in
just with all the
the draft last
uncertainty.
season? Yeah,
Well, you can
exactly.
understand why you want to shore up the D, but with all the uncertainty, it's like maybe just you should have just let him do his, like, we didn't know he's here yet, but like should have just let him do his thing. Like, just see what turns out from this mess. Just clear up as much and then really do it. Do it right. Do it
Yeah.
right in a real off season. Like, you kind of had one when you showed up. You had cap space. You had all. You don't have to, like. But again, the reality is that he's expected to do things all the time. Like, people don't want to see him wait for anything. There's a large contingent of people don't want to see him wait at all. So we have to kind of like put that out there. But I
Yeah.
really do believe, like, you have to look at this team and be very weary of the health and know that you can't rely on the players that you have now to take you far into the playoffs or even get you into the playoffs, because while all together on paper it looks like a nice package and maybe one that could get you into the playoffs, the reality is you're probably not going to have that available to you at any point this
Yeah,
season.
because they might not be able to sustain the health, which is already
And
happening. They haven't
so,
sustained it, right?
so, well, we have this as a topic, and I think we can ask this question right now. So, like, what is that point where you look at the health of this team, and maybe some guys, maybe they're coming back, maybe other guys get injured, or maybe but do you think, like, at Christmas, if they're healthy, the Flyers continue? Because, like, yeah, like, what do you do? Do they try to add somebody if they see the Flyers are getting healthy and they start winning some games? If they're in a bubble position to make the playoffs, they're gonna try to make the playoffs. I don't know if they're
Oh
gonna
yeah, it's a
invest a
results
lot,
business. Yeah, but they'll try
but
to make
as a
an ad
team,
or two potentially. Yeah.
at the very least, they're gonna say, "Hey, we as a team we
Yeah.
believe we're a playoff team,"
But I mean,
or we can be.
the chances of them being in that position, I think, are
It
slim.
requires
Just
health.
yeah, exactly, and they don't have it right now. And like
I
you're
don't
gonna
see
go,
that
yeah,
trend.
I don't see it happening
I
either
can't be
personally.
positive about it.
No,
Can he? Can they? Can they afford to be positive about it, or do they already just?
but
Okay, let's ask this question real quick before I. Is there a benefit to assuming early that you won't have the health?
probably yeah,
What's the
because in
benefit?
the benefit in my estimation is this. I mean, if you know that these guys are going to be healthy, you already know that you're not going to be anywhere near the playoffs. You could start planting the seeds very early as a general manager, talking to other general managers in terms of, are you interested in this? Are you interested in that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you get it started early, you get the market value for guys that you're looking to move early, and pull the trigger on that right on these things, not right away, but you set kind of seeds in for the trade deadline and things like that. Whereas if you're in a mode where guys are coming back getting healthy and it's trending in that direction, you're probably not having those conversations. So in a sense, it could be a good thing from acquiring assets, but I don't know exactly the way it's going to go. But I mean, like we're saying, so far it's trending towards what we said initially, where they're probably not going to be healthy or close to it at all, I would say.
Yeah, well, here's the problem, right? Like, let's say that the Flyers start getting a little healthy and JVR is healthy. Let's say he's healthy for the rest of the year. And the team, but not a lot of guys are healthy. You know what I mean? Like, they're not, like, Atkinson's still not back, right? Maybe somebody else gets injured, important too, right? And it's just like they're just not a healthy group. And then all of a sudden, but they're playing really hard as a team. You know what I mean? The morality is not bad, and they're putting in the work, like, hard. And they're losing a lot of these games by one goal on the empty netters or whatever. And then you just trade one of their best players on them. And I get it, it's a business, right? I do think of that like as a leader of an organization. Yes, you have to make that hard decision of being like, I'm cutting. It is what it is. But I do see that hesitation or being like, do I really want to punish them for doing what we've asked them to do?
Yeah,
Just
I
play
think.
their ass off,
I
buy
mean,
in. You know what
my
I'm saying?
thoughts. Yeah, and that's a totally valid point,
And this
right?
is
Because
I'm sorry, let me just correct. This is about trading early, not trading
yeah,
at all. Because I think
yeah.
no matter what, JVR gets traded.
Oh
Unless
yeah,
we're in the playoffs,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's
we have
what I
to
was
be
gonna
in the
say. Right,
playoffs.
no matter what he gets traded, I just think no. I think just by the nature of how it works in the NHL and the trading, I mean in the sense that like I don't think he'll go early, but I think you can start having those conversations early about moving him.
They've been definitely been talking about it since
Well,
last
you
season.
have to hope. I
Most
mean,
teams know. Most teams know what we're like. We were talking about a first round pick. That was probably not the ask, but we probably want teams to. We're probably willing to eat half the salary, and we probably wanted like a second round pick.
yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah,
But yeah, I understand your point. Like it's in your best interest as a team. You might as well wait till the trade deadline with a guy like JVR because he's going to
but he
help
helps
your
you win games
he's going to
too.
help
That's
your
the
younger.
problem.
Yeah, that's the thing,
If
right?
you're
So
trying to
it's
tank,
a double edged sword.
right?
The thing is,
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like a lose lose.
I don't know if the teams necessarily like. I don't know if their mindset going into the season was the tank. I mean, it
No, I
might
don't
be an
think so. I think it
I
was a
think
wait
it's
and see
yeah. I think it's turning into an unintentional tank, to be honest.
because the
Just based off
injuries.
just based off what's happening.
Yeah,
So in that case, I mean, I still think they're going to want to because it's a Tortorella coach team, man. They're going to want to try to win every game. It just is what it is, and that's the
yeah.
culture you want to build. You don't want to build a team that's
Correct.
expecting to lose. And the thing is, you see guys, when you trade JVR, they're thinking, well, the team's expecting us to lose. Look at who they're trading. And
Yeah.
that factors into what you were saying, Yariv. I just think with a guy like a JVR, it just benefits them probably to wait till the last second at the TDL. And reason being is hopefully you get some sort of bidding war and then you get the most you can.
God, it would be so amazing if we got a top three pick this year. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not. I like, dude. I just want to point it out to people. Like, if you look at the top three guys, and I'm
They're
jumping around a little bit, but
crazy.
Connor
Yeah.
Bedard right now in the WHL in 22 games, he has 19 goals, 29 assists, 48 points. For Michkov, uh, in the VHL, okay, he has in 8 games, he's got 8 goals, 4 assists, 12 points. For Adam Fantilli, who's 17 in the
Crazy.
NCAA, in 12 games, he's got 9 goals and 14 assists. That is insanity to have
Yeah.
those type of
He has what,
performances
23
at those
points,
ages.
Fantilli?
He got 23 points in 12 games as a
Fuck.
17-year-old.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And he's like 6'4".
I mean, this was our topic, and I guess we'll get into it because I think this is perfect
I mean,
segue.
it's all interweaved. It's all good.
Yeah, is this the best case scenario for the Flyers to bottom out this season? I mean,
You don't even have to
probably.
be, yeah, you don't have to be get the number one
No,
pick. You just gotta
no,
get
you
in that
don't.
top three. Though I will say
Yeah,
that Mitch Kov, it's kind of an issue because he's signed for the next 5 years. And at that point, the Flyers have to start considering, like, look, we need an outlet in Russia to start smuggling guys out because we
yeah,
need Michikov, we need Fedotov. Let's
yeah.
go.
They're gonna have
Kolosov
to.
is too close for my liking, even though he's Belarusian. But get him
They're
over
gonna
here
have to
too.
get somebody to handle that sort of situation if they
Yeah.
do end up, drafting Mishkov. But man, either three of those guys, 100% changes the trajectory of this franchise just as soon as you draft them, in my opinion. So,
Yes.
in terms of them bottoming out, like that's probably just based on where we're looking right now. Where are they overall in the standings? Like
They
22nd,
they
23rd, around
I
that,
didn't
around
they
that.
definitely are dropping. They definitely dropped considerably, but they can't score on a regular basis.
Yeah, which is going to lead to them losing games. So, I mean, the best case scenario is for them to bottom out. Are they going to bottom out? I mean, if the trend continues of the injury history
Yeah.
and they just can't ever seem to get healthy, I mean, they're going to probably be close to bottoming out, I would say, like in
Oh,
the top five. If they get back,
so
though, JVR, Lawton, Konechny, and they all stay healthy and Atkinson comes back, and it's only really Couturier you're missing, then I could see them win some games.
right, yeah, exactly.
And
That's a different
that's
scenario.
also a possibility though, because I mean, though Atkinson is week to week, I mean, week to week could mean next week
Right.
technically. So like
He,
it's hard to know. And with I mean, Konechny, Lawton, and JVR, they're probably going to be back in the next couple of weeks. It looks like so.
but I'd be like in the back of my mind though, I'd still be like as a GM because let's go back to the question: is there a benefit?
Yeah,
Because maybe there is a cost benefit. I'm not on those negotiations. I don't know. some teams might be like, well, we want him now because we need it now, so we can
Yeah.
improve now because we have a lot more games to win. And maybe there's a team out there that like, yeah, we have a serious injury, we would take JVR
Yeah.
50% retained, and right now I'll give you more. I don't. He's worth more to me now than he will be
Because
worth.
I need him because of the injury.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I need him.
That's where I wonder, like I was saying with the Ristolainen thing, like, is this the time to hold the Leafs over a
The
barrel and
pro-
say, here's a guy that can play? Like,
yeah, but the problem with
salaries,
Ristolainen is
the
that he
salaries, the
comes with
problem.
a well, he
Yeah.
comes with a multi-year investment
Oh yeah, of course.
where I think a lot of teams would look for the Band-Aid to be a 1 year.
Yeah, first. They're gonna look that. They're gonna look for that first. But
Right.
you gotta
Unless they
factor in.
really like Risto, which
You never know.
it's
But
possible. I
you
mean,
gotta factor. What you have to really factor in
not
though
the
is
way he's
like
played
this.
this year. But
No. But this
he's been all
is
right, but
typically the NHL
not
is
great.
not a league where you're seeing any trades until around like February. So
That's
like
why I asked, are we
majority
going to be
of
one of the first teams
I could see
to
it for
trade?
sure. I mean, I think majority of the teams aren't willing to trade right now because they probably think, well, it's only been about like 20 games. We've seen
Yeah.
in the past that like you could have a bad 20 games and still make the playoffs. We've seen it if you're not too far out of it. We've seen it happen. So like, I wonder. That's what I'm saying with that whole risk the line situation. Whereas if you're a team that's desperate right now, maybe there just isn't a lot of options. And
Yeah.
it's either take what you can get or take nothing. So like I hope Fletcher. I mean, his past moves have never led me to believe he's the type of GM that's proactive in these type of situations. We're not in the rooms to know, but like you have to hope he's making some sort of calls in these situations and just testing the waters because you might
Yep.
as well when it's trending in the way that it is right now. There's no harm to pick up the phone and call the GM and say, hey, like you might not want to trade for him right now, but we're going to be looking to move this guy. So whenever you do,
Yeah.
give us a call, right?
Right. And I think the Flyers have a few guys. Like I think most of our team will probably stay put, but like a lot of these guys who are fighting for roster spaces now that are fill-ins,
Might
like
be
some of
gone,
them
yeah.
might be gone too. I mean, like, and I think it's good for them. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like Patrick Brown, I imagine, would want to get traded to a playoff team and get an opportunity to. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong because being traded is probably not that fun. But there are some
But if
players
it's to
out
a
there
winning team, that's really good. I don't
that
think
it's
you
an
would be
opportunity to play in the
opposed.
playoffs, yeah, and make a
Yeah.
name for yourself. Especially if you're being brought in specifically to do that.
Yeah.
Like a guy like Nick Seeler, I think it'll definitely surprise people. That there might be some trade talk about him the way he's
I
looked this
mean,
year.
he's been really good in his role.
Yeah.
And I'm not a guy who's been a fan of Sealer in the past at all. So
Well,
I can admit that he's playing his role to a T. He's doing what
Torts
they're asking of him, right? So
Torts for sure knows how to get the most out of his grinder players, out of his like guys who keep it simple. Like
yes.
they excel under him because he asks for simple plays and consistency and physicality. And that's something that they all bring. So they play that within a system. They
Yeah.
can be effective in that role. That's
Exactly.
why
That's why a
it
lot of these
works.
guys look decent, and
Yes.
and it's really pointing to like the reason these games, a lot of them are competitive because you have a lot of guys that are playing really hard, but they're also not giving a lot of teams other space. Like
Right.
they're
just
checking them
keeping
hard.
outside, hit them,
Yeah,
stick
exactly.
them, keep it simple.
Exactly.
Simple
And
plays out the zone.
that's hard to play against. It keeps a game close, but then when it gets to that point where okay, we need a goal, it's not coming from any of those guys usually anyway.
That's the problem is like if the Flyers had like when they have Konechny, right? They have like the fast break the other way. It can be shifty. It's like right now, like
they don't have any of that.
Yeah,
other than Owen Tippett, they don't have that. And and
I mean,
that's a problem. You can't
Frost.
Frost
I wish
too.
was like that right now, but he's still not doing
he's
it.
Not doing it to the extent of Tippett.
Yeah.
And I mean Farabee, I think we're slowly seeing him come into himself, but I think Farabee, you got to be patient, man, especially with the neck surgery.
The back surgery. But I just think realistically, Tippett is one of the only guys who really plays that way.
Yeah, and the thing is too, when you're a team and you're looking to defend the other team, that's
being of age.
Yeah, but if you're a team and you're looking to defend the other team on that night when you're playing the Fly, you're thinking to yourself, well, who on this team's dynamic and is able to carry the puck into the zone and make plays and do
Tippett's
things
on his way to being
a star. Yeah, I would say he looks really, really good. But that's what I mean. Teams are gonna key in on that. They're gonna say, well, we got to be on Tippett. And I mean,
it does remind me of when Jake Voracek. I said it earlier. It reminds me of when Jake Voracek was traded to come here. Guy about that age where people gave up on him. And then he comes here, gets a little bit of confidence. This is the beginning.
Gets a chance.
Of it. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't expect like, oh, this year that's it, superstar. Like you gotta expect that it's actually next year.
It's gonna be a slow rise. It's gonna be a slow rise.
And there'll be some streakiness.
And the thing is, it's not fair to him either, right?
He's because a playmaker.
he's turning into a bona fide first line guy in my eyes. Like if he becomes a guy where he's
I
scoring
know.
30 goals and getting
Him
over
and
70
TK.
points, like that's valuable, right? But the thing is, he's not that yet. Like we're saying, it's still a rise, right? So
I
like
know.
the fact that he has to face first pair of defensemen every night and he's facing those tight covers, like it's gonna be tough, but it's also a good learning experience for him.
Absolutely.
So there's a double edged sword to it, but I think it'll benefit his game. But like I was saying, he's basically the only guy with that dynamism right now. And you take Konechny out of the lineup. I would say Farabee has it, as we are saying, but he's still working his way back. And like just with the Farabee thing, I see people kind of harping on Farabee and kind of shitting all over the guy. And
I don't even understand what people are talking about. I'll be honest.
no,
People said it to me and I was like, what?
he's
I
played
was like,
pretty
I went
good.
like this,
Yeah.
like, what?
Okay, there's some things where he's had a couple turnovers, whatever that happens in a long
Okay.
season. My thoughts though is this: you're coming off a back surgery. You made it back when you probably weren't. People didn't even expect you to be back till likely
Yeah.
November, December. So, which is right now. So you made it back anyway. Like you're scoring, you have a decent amount of points, a decent amount of goals so far in the season coming off that surgery. Like look at Jack Eichel. The end of his season last season was not very good. A lot of fans were like, "What's wrong with Eichel? He's ever going to be the same." Look at him this season, right? These
Wait.
injuries that are long term like that, like
Yeah.
it takes a long time to get back to your like a back injury too. That's what we got to be wary of with a Couturier thing too. It's gonna take a bit of time to get back to yourself. It's a big injury,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Like you're never going to be the same after a back surgery. I don't care
And he's
what it is and how revolutionary the surgery is. No matter if you have a back surgery at any point in time, you're never going to be 100% the
well,
same guy as you were.
he's also younger than everybody. Like, okay, the top point producers on the team.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is actually kind of hilarious. But the top point producer on the team, Hayes with 19 points, Travis Konechny with 19 points, Farabee with 12, D'Angelo with 10.
In what 19 games?
Yeah,
Which
D'Angelo
is not
with
even
10.
bad. It's not even bad.
Yeah, Tippett with 10 in 14 games.
Yeah.
Provorov has 8, and Zach McEwen has 7.
Just pretty
Casey's got
awesome.
7. Lawton's got 7. And then Reeves like had 5 in 6 games. He's been out. And Allison had 4 points. But if you look at it, it's like, okay, I hear you guys, but when I see the youngest, by far the youngest of that crop, in the top 3 in points, maybe not points per game.
Coming off a back surgery.
Yeah, it's like okay. I mean,
like
talk
he's gonna progressively
wrong target.
Yeah, he's gonna progressively get better as the season goes along, coming off an injury like that. Like I don't get what people are saying with that one. But
I think people expected that like somebody would step as a superstar early in the season.
He just didn't have.
I did not anticipate that.
I didn't anticipate.
TK did that.
I didn't. Yeah, TK. I anticipated a big year from. Honestly, me and you anticipated a pretty big year from Tippett, though a lot of other outlets weren't really seeing him in. But I would say that like
the Tippett one was obvious, dude.
Yeah, you saw it coming.
From our perspective, from the two of us.
I saw it just because
we talked about it all off season.
The guy's shot, man, it's just crazy. Like when you have a shot like that, you're gonna be a difference maker. Like there's just no doubts about it. And the skating, the shot and the skating, those two things specifically in this day and age of the NHL. Yeah,
yeah, the skill set, absolutely. But I just felt like with what Tortorella was bringing here, I'm just like this. Tippett seems like the biggest candidate.
Yeah, Tippett's bought in 100%. Even the defensive game.
He obviously has never had the opportunity that he's had now. I mean, that's
quite clear. Florida didn't give it. Florida didn't give it to him, right?
They were stacked.
They were stacked, which makes sense. Like you're not gonna put a rookie in there when you can have Sam Bannon or Jonathan Huberdeau on your second line left. Yeah. Like it is what it is on that sense. But there is, like we were saying, like there is certain things still to be positive about. It's just, I mean, there's obviously negativity with the losing streak, but there's certain things you can look at and say, okay, well, there's guys here that are looking like they're going to be pieces of the future, and I think that's a main thing, right? And it's a main caveat of what Tortorella was really looking for all along. Just who can I take here and build with?
Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's really a shame because this team is not built to really win, and I think a lot of people will, and again, I don't think people listen to this podcast, but I think a lot of people who just casual watch will be like, oh, this team stinks, but it's like it doesn't tell the real story of what's happening here.
Exactly right.
It's just gonna take time. I mean, people could not like that, but the reality is, and we'll go back to the beginning. I don't think Chuck Fletcher has done a great job as GM. I can't deny that. We're in a hole. We're in a hole of some sort. But we are digging our way out of it right now, at least from what I can tell. Even with the injuries, I
mean, John Tortorella is obviously a big part of that. But you do see, like this team on the ice and just the way they play, like that's how you want a team to play. Like you want
God, I
them to
wish
play
Bobby
hard.
Brink was
You
healthy
want
now.
them to buy in, right? Like the team is buying into what Tortorell's saying. They're not seeing, it's not the fact that they're losing based around unforced errors and wide open, goals like last season. Just the defensive structure's terrible. Like their structure's there, they just can't score more than 2 goals a game, and you're not going to win very often in this league when you can't score more than 2 goals a game.
Yeah,
It's just the nature of the beast, right?
yeah. And like, look, we knew Carter Hart wasn't going to be unstoppable every night, but they weren't even able to score enough for him in some of these games. And it just kind of is what it is. This is where this team is right now. But I will say they're not embarrassing you.
No.
People can say whatever they want. I'm not seeing, oh, the Flyers were embarrassed. They're not. They're not embarrassing you. They're doing what we've asked of them. The reality is right now the team is not talented enough to win a lot of these games. They can win more of them than they've won. I would argue that I agree
There's a
with
couple that
Tortorella.
got away from them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They probably should have got more points, but it doesn't significantly change where this team is. With
No.
the injuries, you can see at most
Let's be
they're a
real.
bubble
Okay,
team. Or at
hypothetically,
most.
yeah, hypothetically, what were the 2 overtime games that they lost? Montreal and Columbus.
Yeah.
If they win those two, add 2 more points on. What is that really doing?
Just keeps us in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, like it's not making or breaking your season,
It
and that's the point we're kind of trying to make, right? Like,
Yeah, and look, this is what this team is with the injuries. You can't say, and no matter who's positive. Look, we're a positive podcast. We're not stupid. With
yeah,
these injuries, you cannot say this is a playoff team.
not even close. Yeah.
Nobody can say that.
They're a bottom 10 team, bottom
But
five
but
probably.
I want them to believe that they are, and that's cool.
Yeah,
For now,
that's the
that's cool.
mentality that you want. That's the effort that you want,
Yeah.
obviously, because that's what builds a winning culture, right?
Well, I
Wanting to put that effort into your
I
game
hope
on a
that
daily
that's
basis.
being expressed to everybody, whether they're going to be here for the future or not. Is that
Yeah,
look, we are building a culture from not this. This is not this year. We have a 5-year plan. Like that's what I'd be telling people. Like I have a plan to get us here, and it's going to take steps, right? So hopefully everybody buys in and keeps moving forward. It's gonna get ugly at times. Like people are gonna freak out this year at
yeah.
times. You're gonna get
But
angry at the lineups and
it might be the best thing realistically if you just look towards the draft like we were earlier, just with those top 3 guys there. Like it's kind of almost it's a dark tunnel, but then the silver light starts to loom at the end
yeah,
of the season,
yeah.
and you see Connor Bedard's face just emerge, and you're like,
Oh,
oh, okay, that would be
yeah, I
amazing.
know.
But I mean, any one of those 3 guys, right? So like realistically, you're looking at like a game like a Montreal and you're Columbus, and you're a fan, you're watching, you're into the game because it's an overtime game, it's exciting, it's a competitive game. You want to see the team that you're cheering for win ultimately,
Yeah,
but in the back of your head, you think, well, they played hard,
it's a
they ended up
silver lining.
losing, but it's not the worst thing when that prize at the end of the tunnel, like we were saying, ends up being like a generational talent that can change the course of a franchise, which the Flyers desperately need at this
Yeah,
point, I would say.
and look, we can't bank on it. We've had times where we've been disappointed, but I hope that with the right process and attitude that this team is showing, that they'll be rewarded by doing the right things throughout. There is this weird feeling where it's kind of like the hockey gods going, yeah, you guys are doing better, but we're still not ready for you to be great. We got another thing in store for you. That's absolutely hippy dippy nonsense. But boy, do I hope that that's right.
I really do. Because if you look, I mean, just to mention it, man. Like if you look at the luck that the Flyers have had the last couple of
You
years,
would
just in
hope
terms
it
of
balances out.
yeah, I mean that's typically what happens, right? But who knows?
Who knows,
As
dude?
of who knows with this organization, with this team, I feel like it's just what the thing is with the Flyers when if they're really good, either they're really bad. One thing stays constant. There's always something happening. There's always something going on with this team, no matter if it's in a good thing or a bad way. There's always something kind of happening. So I mean, at least for us and for everybody, there's something to talk about, right? So
Yeah.
that's a good
100,
thing.
100%, dude. All right. I think we should go into maybe a little bit of a Phantoms update and then we'll end on here. So, Phantoms did lose their recent game. I forgot to look it up and my page is not loading. Forget the score of that game. I think they lost like 6-4 or
Yeah, six
something.
four.
Is
Yeah,
it 6-4? And
yeah.
then they won, but they did win the previous 5
Yeah,
prior
and
to that.
Urson, I believe, was in net for all 5, which is very encouraging.
Yeah, he has
So,
been kicking ass. And from the perspective of most of the players on the team, the Phantoms are actually looking vastly improved. They're still not killing it as far as the standings, but they've again had some health issues, especially with the Flyers. Now they're kind of putting it together. They've been more competitive, and guys like Cooper
I think
Marudi obviously are playing well, and
I think that's a really good thing, to be
it's
honest.
fantastic for the
Yeah.
organization. It's about time.
Yeah.
They need to be competitive. They have to be.
Well, you got to look back, right? When was the last time the Phantoms were really competitive? Was
It's
when
been a few years.
Travis Sanheim, Phil Myers were kind of running
Yeah,
the
exactly. Yeah,
defense there. So it's been a while, and you always
yeah.
want to have a competitive and or not junior team, an AHL minor team that is actually going to be in the playoffs year in year out, because that, playoff experience in the AHL, that's valuable too. If you're a young guy and you get that experience coming up to the NHL, like that can help you in your development. So I think that's something that a lot of these young guys would benefit from. But also, like I go back to that lockout season in 2004, the Mike Richards, Jeff Carter team that won the Calder Cup, and there was a lot of young guys on that team. And you saw what type of culture that builds when your minor league team can win, and what it does for developing your players, and what it did for Richardson Carter and a lot of younger guys, that made it onto that team, like an Umberger or things like that. So I just think if you look at it from the Phantoms perspective, the best case scenario for them would be to go on a deep, long playoff run in the
Oh
AHL. That's
yeah.
going to really help a lot of these young guys and how they're moving forward with their games, and when they get closer to
100%.
being NHL ready, like especially like a guy like a Desnoyers, where you get a long playoff run out of a guy like
A
him,
York.
and he performs, even York as well. Like
Yeah.
they're ready to really step in and be contributors then the next season, right? So I think that's something you got to look for as a fan too, that you can be positive about. So hopefully the Phantoms can keep it up as they go along.
Yeah,
Right.
and they legitimately have some talent this year. I mean, you look at the defense alone. I mean, the fact that you still have Zamula and Adard, who's been
Yeah,
playing really
Zamula
well.
got sent down. Yeah, they had a really good top four
Yeah,
D with Belpedio, Zamula, York, and Adder. Yeah,
Wiley,
Wiley as well
yeah,
too.
Cam York, obviously. So and Kevin Connaughton, who obviously is a former NHL player. They got Ersan is killing it. Grosnick was the AHL All Star. Nagel has shown to be a good goalie in the past. It's not a bad team. Lishkel is injured, but he's been really good this year. Marudi's a great AHL player. Adam
Yeah.
Brooks isn't even healthy yet. He's a borderline NHL, AHL guy. Isaac Ratcliffe finally had 2 goals the other game, which is nice. He still only had 2 goals in 12 games, but nice
You
to see
want
him
to see
get
him
on the
turn it
board.
around, yeah.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson has been dominating from what I've seen, at least kind of on a nightly basis. Wisdom started coming a little bit. I think he only has 4 assists on the year, but not too bad. And then obviously Tyson Forrester, I'm pretty sure is tied for team lead in points,
I think
along with
goals
Cam
as
York.
well, right?
Yeah. Which again, those are not like astronomical numbers that he has, but it's almost a point per game pace,
But it's
and
good, yeah. It's
but yeah,
encouraging,
it's
right?
it's definitely good, and we want to see more of it. We want to see them have a real winning record. I think they're 7-6 and
Yeah,
something,
and
one or three.
around a point per game pace in the AHL is nothing to shake your head at
Yes,
either,
it's
right?
one.
Even if it isn't a point per game exactly. Like look at if you look at Tippett last year, he wasn't exactly a point per game in the AHL, but he was close. And look how good he's playing in the NHL, right? So if
Yeah,
you're even close to that and you're a young guy in the AHL, that's a really really encouraging sign, because ultimately, I mean, as a Forster's what, he's only 20, 21 years old.
yeah.
Well, he's playing against guys that are a lot older than him and doing well. So that's a good sign for just the way he's coming along. And you know what? I'm pretty sure just the way it's going this season, we're probably going to see Tyson Forrester and Cam
It,
York
it, yeah, I
at
mean,
some point too.
I think if we were really watching this team kind of sell off assets as we move forward, yeah, I would anticipate some of that.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I don't think the moves like to sell guys off will be, you
Anytime
know,
soon, yeah.
I don't think we're at that space, but you
When
see
it comes
in
to
a row, you start thinking about it.
around January, maybe we'll
Yeah.
see something. Who knows, right? I think that's
Again,
when you get more clarity on the injuries as
I
well.
think I think we'll see some kind of mini win streak in here too, and then it'll confuse people. I don't expect this team to go, dying into the night, and I think they will get
Yeah,
healthy a little bit. And if they do, like if they get TK and JVR and Lawton, and they get these guys back, they're gonna be better again.
yeah,
It's
they
gonna
are.
happen. They're gonna be
Yeah,
more competitive. They're gonna sneak out some of these games. So, it's just a reality. But we'll see what happens because injuries have been a goddamn
killer.
pain of the
Yeah.
ass. I think before we wrap up, though, I do want to go through the stats update just a little bit. We went over some players last time, and also not going to do the comments. Noticing getting less comments on the videos. I think maybe it had a reverse effect. It could be coincidence, but also don't want to call people out. So feel free to comment again, and you won't get called out on the podcast in any
Yeah.
kind of way, though that was not the intention. But hopefully we'll see more engagement there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we were thinking too of doing like some, mailbag questions potentially. So just, look out if you follow us on Twitter. We might ask for some questions, and then when you guys submit them, we can talk about, some of your ideas or thoughts on the podcast as well.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So let's just real quick. So Tanozinski did go down for a couple games. He did have 1 goal and 2 assists. I think he had 8 shots in one game or something. He dominated. So he got called back up pretty quickly. Alexis Gendron, just an update from last time. I mean, the guy's got 18 goals and 10 assists in 21 games. I mean,
Really good, yeah.
he's just
And he was what, a
spanking.
seventh round pick, correct?
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
now I remember seeing him in camp, and I was talking to Russ Cohen about this. Who Russ doesn't have a very high opinion on his overall game, but his shot is. At least I noticed it. I don't know his game that well. I did notice his shot was spectacular when it was there. I was like, oh, I was like, that's an NHL release. But we'll see. I mean, just because you can score goals doesn't mean you're gonna be an NHL player, but it's still cool.
Yeah. Especially as a seventh rounder too, right? You find value in those picks. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was another game in between. I don't remember what the points were at last time, but just a repeat, Cutter Gauthier does have 6 goals in 8 games with 3 assists. Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
J.R. Avon, also 10 goals, 8 assists, 18 points in 18 games. That's essentially what he did last year. Again, this was a free agent pick, essentially like a free 3rd-round pick kind of guy. Maybe even a 2nd-round pick to some degree, but we'll see. Been a good point producer, and we'll see if he turns out to be what kind of talent level he is, but not a bad start. And then shout out to Ethan Sampson. Obviously, we've had Sean, his father, on the podcast. Ethan is continuing what he, I guess he's even going above what he did last year. WHL right now in 18 games, got 6 goals and 12 assists, 18 points.
His game's very intriguing, man, just because he's such a big guy.
Big dude, right-handed.
Right-handed, skates really well for his size, and
has an offensive touch.
Yeah, the offense is really coming around his game the last couple seasons. So I think, the Flyers picked him in the 5th round. So once again, that could be a value pick for them. I will say it, and I've said it on Twitter this week a bunch, just in conversation with some people, that you can shit on Fletcher and Flair all you want, all you like, and you can shit on their drafting and the whole Caulfield York thing. But overall, I like a lot of their draft picks, and they're picking guys that look like they have NHL upside just based on kind of how they've been progressing since they've been drafted. And you got to go back. You can't ignore history that a lot of the Minnesota Wild players that are currently on that team contributing on a decent team are all Chuck Fletcher, Brent Flair draft picks. So they've shown in the past they can draft some pretty good guys and guys that can make it to the NHL. They have an eye for that sort of talent. So hopefully that shines through with a lot of their later picks where they kind of become steals for the Flyers.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we'll do more of some of the AHL updates here. So Lishkel is injured right now, but he does have 6 points in 8 games, 0.75 point per game. Tyson Forrester with 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points in 14 games. Cam York with the same 3 goals, 7 assists in 14 games. Very good for the both of them. Ronnie Addard, who had 2 goals the other night, I believe. He's got 9 points in 14 games, 4 goals, 5 assists. Jackson Cates also 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points in 11 games. And obviously he just got the recent call up. Jay O'Brien with a slower start. I would expect better numbers, but maybe the team is not doing as well. He does have 1 goal and 6 assists, 7 points in 11 games. It was a little disappointing for Jay O'Brien. You really hope that he was kind of taking his game to the next level.
Yeah, in this season where,
but that's a surface level analysis as well.
Yeah, he's been in college for the past couple seasons. With O'Brien, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think because next year they're gonna have to bring him either to the Phantoms or the Flyers, I'd imagine. So I'm just kind of interested to see where that goes. I think if they don't sign him, they get back a 2nd-round pick, I believe. That's really? The compensation. Yeah, that's the compensation if they do not sign him after this season. So I don't know if that's something they'd be interested with in this draft coming up.
They might.
Because, a 2nd-round pick in this type of draft, especially if it's high up there, could be almost like a 1st-round pick. So it might be something to look towards.
You're not wrong, my friend. That's a great call out. We'll have to follow that as we move forward. And then Emile Andre in 17 games got 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Again, still playing a huge role over there. I don't expect that to change. And I think he'll probably be over here pretty quickly. Mentioned already that Isaac Ratcliffe had the 2 goals, so it's nice to see. Just because he didn't have any points outside of the 2-goal game. And then Yegor's Bull just getting sent back down. It's interesting because he is good, but he hasn't played yet. So we'll see how he does for the Phantoms. And the Phantoms are already doing well. So interested to see how he produces after being with NHL team for a bit. Kind of expect it'll help him out. And then let's just end on Samuel Ersan, who has a 2.48 goals against and a .919 save percentage in 10 games.
Doing really well.
Pretty damn good.
For his age, too. And correction on the O'Brien thing, not a second-round pick in 2023, 2024. So,
okay.
But still.
Womp, 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 but not as
fun.
I
know. Not as fun, no. I was talking myself into the fun. Be like, yeah, I think it's 2023. Then I'm like in my head, I don't remember. But
to your point, I mean, I think he's still worth signing, but they might be disenfranchised with him. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends. I'm not.
They were high on him when they drafted him, so I don't know.
They were. It's a whole different regime now. I wonder.
I'll be honest. I've liked him every time I've seen him here. Yeah. When I've seen him in Philly, he's always stuck out. So I think there is a chance he's better than most people realize, but time will tell how that.
Yeah,
we'll
see too. I think the different management staff could play a factor, but you're right. I mean, I'm sure they watch them in the development camps, things like that, and things stick out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with O'Brien for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's call it there. Vasili, anything you want to announce to people? Anything upcoming?
There'll be an article paired with this podcast that you are listening to right now. So go check that out on flyersnittygritty.com, and should also probably have a bit of a state of the team kind of update article coming out hopefully around the weekend. So keep an eye out for that, everybody. And thanks for reading as always and listening and all that stuff. We really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, for sure. You guys are the best. Again, thank you everybody for listening. Shout out to Jim Steaks again. They're still not back up. That's why I don't really talk about it as much, but we'll announce when they're open again. Shout out to Jim Steaks. Keep them in your hearts. They will be back. Outside of that, please like, subscribe, share our stuff. It's a huge help when people share or do anything. Please add ratings. Give us like subscribe. Whatever we can do. Our subscribe rates are pretty good for the listeners we have, so I appreciate that. So yeah, just keep that coming. It's a huge help. But yeah, if you can share it out to people, just let people know about our podcast. Also a humongous help, and we appreciate you. I really enjoyed the meet and greet, and we'll do more stuff like that, and we'll try to make we're thinking about maybe doing a live podcast for that one next time. So
yeah, which would be awesome.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We've been trying to plan something like that, but it just get complicated. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, again, thank you so much. We love you, and remember, always stay